Hi guys, I'm Christina Wise. I'm the film producer and writer. Um, Jason Wise, my the director, and my husband, and Peter Marshall are on their way, but traffic's a little heavier than they anticipated, and they had another Q&A, so they will be coming shortly. In the meantime, you have me to ask any questions that you'd like. Who wants to start? Do you guys have questions, or?
How did you get involved with telling Rosemary's story? What's your connection to it other than being a filmmaker?
So Jason was working at Yahoo, and I was working at TV Guide for years. I did a lot of obit pieces, so anytime any celebrity died, I was basically on call. So I ended up having to tell a lot of stories of people who passed. And Jason wanted to tell a story about entertainment. He wanted to do a history of entertainment. And he met Rosemary's publicist. And Harlan said to Jason, "You got to meet Rosemary. She's got this incredible story." So I had just recently lost my job at TV Guide, and I got her biography, and I read it. And I related so much to her as a working mom, somebody who was trying to always find a job and trying to get the next thing. And the fact that she lived 10 minutes from us and was still alive, and I could interview her, Jason could interview her, and we could get her to be able to tell somebody's story before they pass and get what they want out on camera and not have to do it like, oh, she died and then blah. I wanted that opportunity. And she was lucky enough. It took a few meetings for her to warm up to us, and finally, she said yes, and we did days worth of interviews, and now we're still great friends with her. We see her all the time.
And have you done previous documentaries before this?
Yes. So our first film, Somm, we followed 4 guys trying to become master wine sommeliers. It's on Netflix and iTunes, Amazon. And then we did a follow-up to that, Into the Bottle, which we had 10 chapters about wine. Kind of took the wine list as a storybook. We were kind of pigeonholed as the food and wine directors, filmmakers. So when we were like, we've got this great story about this actress in Hollywood, everyone was like, I don't know. We really enjoyed making and telling Rosemary's story and all the different layers. I mean, I loved the love story. That was one part that I loved, taking a woman who, Sally Rogers was such a strong, tough, single woman. But when you had the real story of Rosemary and how she fell in love with Bobby, you got to see another side of her. You got to see her just be a girl in love. There's no question. She's a tough lady. She is, she'll tell you exactly what she thinks. But you see why she's tough. And I kind of liked showing the evolution of a woman and different things in different parts of her life that she goes through. Being a mom, working hard and getting screwed over and having to keep going. And it kind of makes you tougher. So, yes.
What was it like to work with Rosemary?
It was great. I mean, she's really a lovely person. Like, she really is so sweet. She will tell you exactly what she thinks, but she's also so warm and welcoming, and she was 90-something making us pasta sauce and sending it home with us. She wants to make sure we're well fed. She's so opening, and it was a really great experience because there's no bullshit. It was just, very honest and open. Yes.
I didn't know she wrote an autobiography. Was it her idea? Did she have a ghostwriter?
So she wrote it with her daughter. And it wasn't a large print. I think it was a smaller publishing house. And it was actually kind of hard to find. And it was expensive when I found it on Amazon. And I think it's out of print. Hopefully maybe she can rewrite it or re-release it after this. But it was a good story. Us normal people, we look at somebody on TV, or you think they have all this success. They are this actress. They are on this big show. Their life must be so wonderful. And for her to go through that, losing her husband and still pulling it off, it just goes to show what a professional she was. Earlier today, in an earlier Q&A, we had a writer for the Dick Van Dyke Show. And one thing he said, she was tough. She was very tough. I don't think she liked me. And he didn't know. He knew her husband passed, but he didn't know that he was sick for a year while she was doing Dick Van Dyke. So, and he worked with her every day. So for someone, so many years later to say, I didn't know that, was kind of a shock to me that she was that good and that professional.
With all her great experiences, with all her connections to all of those gangsters and all the mob guys, were there any great parts of that or stories about that, an aspect of it that didn't make it into the film?
So many stories. A ton.
Were they all that positive and loving, or did she have other kinds of stories?
No, they were never negative. Like, they weren't anything, she worked for different mob people who were fighting with different people. And there was a guy in Miami that she was working for, and they did this ski school, and then he had hired her in Vegas, and then the Flamingo people, she had to call, get permission from the Flamingo people to work for this other person. And so there was definitely, she had stories of rivalry and death, but nobody ever treating her, poorly. Really the only story of like her was the Top Banana, with the producer that came on to her. And that was, I think, a pretty negative and harsh thing for her to experience. Like, she also, one reason she's tough is because she had to be around guys like that, so she knew how to put up that, like, no, don't touch me kind of thing.
Who are some of her favorite co-stars?
She's a huge, her and Doris Day, they still really, they talk still, which is so sweet. And we actually have Doris Day calling her and checking in. Doris is such a sweetheart. We wanted to put her in the movie, but it had been so many years on camera. And anybody we wanted to interview, we wanted to make sure that, when you're working with a cast that's in their 90s, it's a little difficult, 80s, 90s. We wanted to make sure everybody looked good and could speak clearly and present themselves. And Doris is doing great, but it just was difficult to arrange it. She hadn't been on camera in 20 years, and we didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable. But they still talk. And, really, her and Rosie and Maury Amsterdam love each other. And they worked together for years, and they just really had a special, special friendship. She still talks to Carl and Dick, and it's kind of funny because, like, she'll call Carl and give him a hard time. He'll call her and give her a hard time, and even her and Peter still talk. And these people that are they're still alive, and they're still here, and they kind of all have this special friendship because they're all the last ones standing, And I've been able to witness that firsthand. And promoting the movie, and it's kind of nice to see. Yes.
Can you discuss how you got Dan Harmon involved with the project?
Yeah, so Dan, I really respect Dan for his writing women on television. I think he does a really good job with that. We are lucky enough to have a friend who is a producer on Rick and Morty, and so. She reached out to Dan, but we picked Dan because he also portrays women so well. It's not just, but he's somebody who took after, he is in the footsteps of Carl. And so we said, if somebody can talk about what it's like to write a television show and what it's like to have this kind of woman on this television show and what that means to the industry today and what kind of lasting image that leaves of having a Sally Rogers character. It's Dan. So, and he's great. And Dan's so funny and hilarious. I don't know. Do you guys all know Dan Harmon? Maybe kind of. He did Community. He's a creator of Community, and then Rick and Morty. So.
You and your husband, you both wrote it and directed it?
So he directs, so he does all the interviews, and then I write it and produce it. And so basically the way that we work together as a team is he goes and he shoots most everything. I was on set for almost all of these interviews except for a few because I just had a baby. And then we come home, he gives me the footage, I go through it, I go through the logs, and I script everything. And then him and I sit together through the editing process.
Because I love what you did with having her voice, and
Yes.
it would be, you know, using an actor to portray it, but
Right.
then the camera, and it's her.
And I have to give my...
That was wonderful device.
That is 100% my husband. And when he told me he wanted to do that, I think both Noopy, Rosemary's Daughter, and I were like, oh, really? Okay. But it actually, it worked out really well.
Someone is telling you the story.
Yeah.
And then you're putting this little visual, so it makes it a lot more interesting.
Yeah, and some of it was not reenactments. We literally had footage of like her friend Jerry, you know, like mouthing to the camera, and it was old film footage. We didn't have sound of it. And things her and Bobby were saying to each other, and him and I kind of had a conversation once, like, don't you wish you know what they were saying to each other? Like, don't you wish you had the audio of everything, you know? And I think maybe that's where he kind of got the idea of, like, we could play with it. And there's one where she's, like, with her nails, and she's like, yes. You know, the director's asking her to cut her nails. And I was just like, she has to be saying, I mean, this is, like, amazing that, like, and for her, she's so sharp. She remembers so much. And I can tell you, we interviewed her in 2014. And over a 2-month period, a couple of days at a time. And we would take a break for a week or two. And because, you know, she's older. She's got health issues she's got to handle and doctor appointments. And we had our own stuff we had to schedule around. And we'd go back and do other interviews. And the story was always the same. And then she kept a scrapbook for every, like, year of her life, basically. So then as we pretty much, you know, A-rolled the whole film. And as we're trying to go and cover the stories we had, I'm going through a book, and she's talking about this one story in this club. Here's the invitation. Here's the people. Here's the exact date. Here's a telegram that she got from somebody. And it was shocking to me that, like, she remembers these things word for word. I don't think I could do that. I'm 35, you know? And, like, it was so impressive. So the lip singing just kind of worked in that she is remembering clearly what these people are saying to her, and they really did say it. She has that kind of brain.
How long was your process?
So we started our initial interviews in 2014. We did Rosemary, Dick, Carl, and Tim Conway. And then we had to do a second film to our first film because sequels can't wait too long in the middle of that. And then so in 2016, we did a Kickstarter fund to raise more money to be able to process our film and then we got some great private money. And we went ahead. I was 7 months pregnant when we finished the Kickstarter campaign. So unfortunately, my baby decided to come a little early. So she also delayed our process. But we just, you know, went on working. I think I went back to work 3 weeks after she was born. And then we finished it this year. So it was a labor of love. It was definitely
The baby or the film?
both. Yeah, no, it's a family. My daughter plays baby Rosemary. It's definitely a family affair, this movie.
Was there any ever talk about her doing a one-woman show live the same way Lane Stritch did her show?
I think she would love that. And honestly, I don't know if there was ever any discussion with her or her business managers or publicist about that. She's wheelchair bound now, so it's kind of hard. And I know for her, she's still sharp as a tack, but it is hard when your body does not want to do what you want to do.
She could do the show in a wheelchair.
Oh, she would. If people would buy tickets, I'm pretty sure she would.
So there was a Dick Van Dyke reunion show done. Did she talk about that at all?
We talked. Yeah, I think it was 10, 15 years ago. The reunion show, if I remember correctly. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think, look, these people, they worked together for a 5-year period. It was a really intense 5-year period because, so many things changed for all of their careers at that time. And there's no love lost between any of them. They all still love and respect each other. And I think after losing Maury, it is kind of like, hey, we're all still here. We love each other, The writer we had today was like, yeah, she gave me a hug at the reunion show. I don't know if it's because it's all good now or if just because we're the last ones left. There is that kind of that feeling of like, hey, we're still here. But they all have really good perspectives of looking back on everything. No one had anything negative to say. And anything negative, like, between Rosemary and Dick and just saying, her pushing him, we did put in there, and I mean, her and Mary, they weren't terrible, but they, I think it was just hard for Rosemary. I mean, she was the most famous person when that show started, and then all these people around her became so famous. So, I think it was a little hard on her ego.
We're here.
All right. Okay, here you go. Please welcome Jason Wise and Mr. Peter Marshall.
Remember me? I used to be in show business. Hi, honey.
Hi.
How you doing, babe?
Good. How are you?
How late are we?
These are the two children that put this thing together. Isn't that amazing?
Children.
Yes, you are children.
All right, sorry. What's that? We're 17 minutes late? Oh, my God.
17 minutes late?
Oh, well, it's better
I'm
enough.
sorry, but we just did another thing at the Landmark.
We got stuck in the slowest Uber driver in the history of the world, and I'm not kidding. Did nothing to hustle.
Lord knows we tried.
We tried.
Should we repeat what we've already gone over?
No. No, I think.
Well, if you guys have any questions for these two, I mean, please ask away.
Yeah,
I think
anybody
I'm
have any
covering
questions
the
for
nitty-gritty
Peter
of
Marshall,
the
myself?
documentary.
Aaron Beersworth, are you here? Hey, you. How you doing? I grew up with this girl in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. Anyways. Yes.
The stories of the drinking in between the tapings of Hollywood Square, are they exaggerated?
Are the stories of drinking between the tapings of Hollywood Squares, are they exaggerated?
No. No, we had 3 dull shows, then we broke for dinner or lunch, whatever, and the last 2 were really a lot of fun. In fact, I had given up drinking, and everybody was really very pissed off at me, to be right with you.
Why did you give up drinking?
Well, I had 5 shows to do. I couldn't drink and do the show, but they certainly could, Paul especially. And Ro didn't drink, by the way. Ro never, I call her Rosemarie. I don't think she ever drank.
I think,
No,
she
she's
was
not
not
a
a drinker.
Yeah.
No.
We've actually benefited from her wine collection because
Yeah,
people
Vincent
would-
Price gave her a ton of wine, and I got there, and I'm like, Rosemary, what are you doing with this wine? She goes, take it. I don't drink this crap. It's like 1970 Dom Perignon and stuff. I'm like, oh, my God. Okay.
She's a Gallo girl.
Yeah, right. At best. Yeah. At best. Yeah, so, yeah.
I have a
Trust me.
friend here. I hope she's still here. Is Beth Austin still here? Oh, thank you, Beth. I can't wait to see you, darling. It's been a long time.
Aw.
Oh. Yes, back there.
Are there folks that you weren't able to interview that you wish you had been able to?
Absolutely. But there are folks that I wasn't able to interview. Absolutely. So basically, Jerry Lewis was the biggest pain in the ass during the making of this film.
Jerry Lewis?
Yeah, Jerry
That's
Lewis.
hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. Jerry Lewis should have been in this film. He wasn't feeling well, and then some reporter came in, and I don't know if you guys saw the viral clip where he freaked out on a reporter and walked out of it. Well, that happened right before we were supposed to interview him, and he just was like, no more. I don't want to talk to anybody. Rosemary called him up and said, you and I have been friends for how many years? You're not going to talk on this movie? And she, by the way, she never asked all these people I reached out to. She would never ask any of them to be in the film because it was like you don't do that kind of thing. But with Jerry, she called him, and basically Jerry was like, I'm tired of this crap. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm over it. And then he had a film come out that was the last film of his life, and it flopped horribly, and he just went away. Don Rickles, Rosemary got him his first job in Los Angeles, and he couldn't remember, so we made a decision not to do that. Doris Day, we were supposed to interview her several times, and God love her. I mean, I spoke to her on the phone 5 times a week for many weeks, And the next day, she would have a hard time remembering that we talked, and I didn't want that kind of a movie. A name is important, but it's not that important. And so, yes, many, and it kills me. Mickey Rooney's not in this film. They were dear friends, Rosemary and her husband and him, and God, who else? So many more. Ruthie Shapiro, her best friend growing up, who was a talent agent and everything. She passed away during the making of this, which was part of the reason we pushed this movie out as soon as we could. It's just important that these people see this movie. So to answer your question, yeah. Anybody else have any other questions? Yes, right there. I totally stole your Q&A leading. I'm so sorry.
You're totally fine.
Okay. How did Tim Conway?
How did she help Tim Conway?
How did she help? She literally. So I'm from Cleveland, and so Tim Conway's kind of a native son of where I'm from, and a very important guy. And it was an impetus for me to want to make this film, was to put Tim in this and talk to him. He was a disc jockey. Now this is cut out of the film, and Christina and I have had a few fights about this, and she was right from a pacing standpoint because I had to keep cutting it shorter and shorter. He was a disc jockey at a local radio station in Cleveland. She was promoting the Dick Van Dyke Show, and it was a flop in the first season. And he was messing with her, and she's like, you are a funny guy. Some people need to know who you are. And so she brought him out to Los Angeles, was his agent for many years, and got him on the original Tonight Show prior to Johnny Carson, and then McHale's Navy, Steve Allen, of course. Yeah. McHale's Navy, all this stuff. He owes his career to her. Truly, and unfortunately, that part will be in the special features, and I promise you, it's going to be excellent.
It is really good. I know every marriage has fights over Tim Conway, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yes, right there.
What was the relationship like with her daughter as adults?
It's very good. Her daughter's here this
Yeah,
weekend.
we just did an interview. She was at the other theater, Noopy.
Yeah.
In fact, if she had hustled her butt to the into the car,
she had been here and then had to go there. Yeah. And but she made it on time. Unfortunately, we didn't.
Yeah. Noopy was a guard dog. We had to get past first. So before we could meet Rosemary, we had to have
guard dog,
lunch with Noopy, and we had to get her approval and everything. And Noopy is a television producer for many years, did news for years. So we were very nervous showing her every cut of the film because she had a different kind of eye than just somebody.
But she was also a sweetheart. We had
and she's very,
very protective though.
Very protective of her mother, as she should be. And they're close, so it's.
But they let us make a film with complete non-interference. I'm serious. This was the scariest thing to show them any cut because they said make an honest movie.
Opened up Rosemary's house. Literally, here's the door to this room with all this stuff. Go through it, please.
And deep Americana. There's a couch in the back room, and I lifted it up, and under it is a 16 millimeter film reel, and it's the only copy in the world of a game show with the first female game show host in history on it. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And I'm like, Rosemary, how in the hell is this under your couch? She goes, film reels are round, they roll. And it's like, it's just that kind of crap. And I'm telling you, my biggest dread with this movie, and I have it to this moment, is we're going to look in the fireplace and find, Jimmy Hoffa or something. It's like we're going to find something even more brilliant than anything we even had, which is the only color footage of Gunsmoke, the only color footage of the Dick Van Dyke Show, and it goes on and on and on and on. I have footage of her and Jerry Lewis and Jonathan Winters and all these people messing around on their home video footage. My home video footage has my aunt. It's just crazy. Yes.
So outside of the home movie stuff, all of the archival stuff was hers?
Well, you have to define archival. One of the things I'm very proud of in this movie, and
not the reenactment.
No, right, of course. But there's a lot of stuff we actually shot in this movie that you wouldn't know, and I'm proud of that. And not many filmmakers would be happy to not know
but
their
a lot
work.
of the show stuff, like the.
Oh, that.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of that stuff, and a lot of even just her shows, like
we shot a lot of the Vegas
with Noopy. She had that because every time she finished a show, she was, "Can I get a copy? Can I get a copy? Can I get a copy?" And she was very diligent about this.
And you should have done that.
What's that?
You should have recorded everything you did and asked for copies of everything.
It would have been a lot of fun. I did the first television show ever from California to New York. The first big network show. It was called, what the hell was it called? Anyway, it was with Tommy Noonan. I used to do a comedy act. And I said, God, I would love to have seen some of that. And on my 90th birthday, they put together about an hour and stuff I had never seen, and it opened with that "Let There Be Stars" with the Neil Hefti Orchestra. It was like the show of shows, dancing girls, and there's old Tommy and Pete. My overbite was very prominent in those days. And so they found Jimmy Pearson. We were just speaking. Jimmy is a wonderful archival kind of guy. He found things I had never seen, and it was really exciting. Yeah. But I don't have any of that. But it's out there somewhere.
Rosemarie is an astounding human being in that she recognized it's not her own importance. It's just the need to hold on to things. And in most cases, she had not watched it in 70 years, 60 years, 50 years, but she had it. And I have every salt packet from every club she ever played and every place she went on Route 66. I mean, she scrapbooked. So it's not like it's just a giant room of junk. It's not. It's very organized in its own way, but there's a lot of it. And it was a very overwhelming process for Christina and I.
I loved the billboards. I really did. Every billboard I saw, oh my God, I worked with that person. But it is sad as I reflect on it. Not for me too much, but for my grandkids, my great grandkids, that would have been fun for them to see.
I agree. I agree. In the back there, yeah.
Peter, how did you work with Rosemarie besides Hollywood Squares?
Peter, how did you work with Rosemarie besides Hollywood Squares?
We actually I don't think we ever worked together. We've known each other. You must remember.
Since you were what, 20 or something like that?
Oh gosh, I think we were in our 20s when we first met. But we used to work the same clubs, and once in a while she would follow me into the club. If you come in a day early or 2 days early, and then you hang with that person you're going to follow. And that's what happened. I think at the Chase Hotel might have been the first time I met her. There was a place called Sahadi State Line up in Tahoe. But we all worked the same clubs. And as I said in the last interview, show business, it's a very small town. There may be 3,500 of us. And we all kind of know each other. And some are nice and some aren't very nice. But in those days, for some reason, everybody was nice. Everybody took care of everybody. I work Eddie's in Kansas City. I said, hey, there's Shecky Green. There's a guy, Shecky Green, you should book him. And Shecky would do the same. We all helped each other. And I find that, I don't find that the case today. But in the old days, we all were very familial. So I've known Kay Ballard. I've known Rosemarie. I've known Carol Channing. I mean, we all go back to many, many, many years. But I don't think Ro and I ever worked on the same stage together.
Except for 14 years on Hollywood Squares. We're going to do one more question. So no pressure, but it's got to be amazing.
All
right,
I'd
okay.
like to tell Mr. Marshall what a great voice you still have.
He wants to tell you what a great voice you still have.
Well, thank you. I have three.
Yes.
Thank you.
Rosemary calls him the forever 9-year-old boy. Is her term for him.
There are CDs for sale. Just go online. Go to Boy Singer.
All right, last question.
The same as Ro. I've known mobsters since I'm 14. The first guy I ever met was Mo Dalitz, who also opened the Desert Inn, and I'll tell you what kind of a friend he was. The first act ever to play the Desert Inn was Tommy Noonan and Pete Marshall, and Mo took care of me, and many of those guys took care of us. They said, "Where are you going next, kid?" I said, "We're off for 2 weeks." He said, "Well, you're going to open it in Fort Worth, then you're going to go over to Houston, then you're going to," and they would book us. And I'm telling you, the best guys I ever worked for, the mobsters. Yeah, and New York. When I grew up in New York. I came to New York when I was 12. That's let me see. That would be 1938, and this was the safest city in the world because it was run by the mob.
Love it. You guys, please tell 4,000 or 5,000 people to see this film tomorrow. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot thank you enough for coming out to see it. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bethy. I'm going to hand you this. I got my good friend here.